goes back to the whole issue of care. You know, how we care for our buildings, how we care for our culture, how we care for our neighbors. And that all connects back to the whole notion of place. There's only one Greensboro, North Carolina.
You had Chrisman coming to Greensboro and wanting a place to put its offices and wanting to be in a building like that and having to know how to do it. If that hadn't happened, then really the people who are saying, well, you should just tear it down, you can't say that they were necessarily wrong about that. But what would have been wrong would have not to have made a run at it.
Our choices were sort of stark. Choice A was to let the building be destroyed and it would be replaced with a gravel lot. Nothing could ever be put back on the building to provide tax revenue to the community. The other choice was to see the building restored. It would bring jobs to downtown. It will still be an active and contributing part of our downtown.
So you can actually run the numbers and see what this building will contribute just to local property tax revenue by being saved. And when you run that number and you run the tax credits and you consider the overall, both the tangibles and the intangibles, and of course the intangibles are Greensboro getting a big monkey off its back, and it's showing that as a community we can come together and accomplish something that a lot of people said couldn't be accomplished.
I like being able to take a building that people said couldn't be fixed and couldn't be saved and proving that it actually can be. And that's exciting. It's exciting to show people, and not as a sort of look what we can do, but more as a look what you could do also if you just believe that it can be done. And when people work together and when people pull in the same direction, it's really incredible what we can accomplish.
I moved to Greensboro 3 years ago, and on day one they toured me through the building and said, this is going to be our new home office. I looked at them, chuckled, and said, yeah, right, you know, it's not going to happen. But then as time evolved, they said, okay, that's going to be your project and we want you to marshal it through. And so once I was assigned the job, I knew it was my challenge. On day one, we brought our structural engineer here, and he literally, we opened it up for him to get his first view. He walked in, looked around, turned around and said, no, can't be done. He turned around and left. So we ended up hiring a different structural engineer that had more experience with masonry structure, and we just started over.
The first pass through, you're just kind of overwhelmed with how much material was in there. It was like walking into a hoarder's den. There was material and debris. It was damp, it was wet, it had just snowed. And then just in general, the state of the building itself. So try to go in there and be fearless the first time. Like, I'm not scared, but you're definitely looking around like, that looks like that could fall, and that looks like that could fall, and it snowed, so. You know, you're in there, the wind's blowing, it's creaking, and you're like, okay, do not be scared, do not be scared. But the first time that you walk in, it was a shocker.
There was debris everywhere. So it was getting walk paths, it was having safe entrances and exits into the building, and then we were basically cleaning the first floor so we had enough room to start putting up scaffolds.
Elevator ladder in first. So the pit ladder is the first thing they installed today. I'm in a meeting with April right now going over what we need for TCO.
I am the project superintendent, so I am out there dealing with the day-to-day deconstruction, stability, reconstruction of the project, dealing with the community, our business neighbors, dealing with the railroad, the police. Every day we have morning meetings and we discuss the potential hazards, and for us to get the building done in a timely manner, we have to have a lot of people working around, above, adjacent to multiple trades. So we have to communicate. It's not just, I need to communicate to the superintendent. No, everybody communicates with everybody. If demo's going on, the demo guy's talking to the mason. If the mason's doing work, he's talking with the framers that are rebuilding the structure. It's not just, I need to communicate to the superintendent. No, everybody communicates with everybody so that we're able to continue production and do it in a safe manner.
Well, Sarah DeSantos, she is a firecracker. She works very hard. She's very passionate about what she does. She's very meticulous. She made sure that all the workers knew what they were doing, had all the materials they needed, and were putting in the quality work we wanted while being safe.
Carpintero lo traigo de que vengo de México, porque toda mi familia trabaja en construcción. Mis tíos, carpintería, concreto, lo que es el fierro, varilla, steel, todo eso. Yo vengo desde niño, aprendí a trabajar en todo eso. Entonces, cuando yo vine aquí, empecé a trabajar de carpintería y conforme fueron pasando los meses, pues fui aprendiendo más el sistema de aquí, porque es muy diferente a lo de México. Me gusta trabajar con ella, es una excelente persona, buena amiga. Para mí es buena persona y buena trabajadora.
Well, our culture here at Chrisman and formerly known as Renton Box, like Prince, formerly known as Prince, you know, we're very team oriented. Here locally we have almost 70 employees, and a lot of those employees have been here 30 plus years. Some of the carpenters that are working behind me have been here 20 something years. And that's just cool. That's unheard of in modern business, you know, where people want to change a job every year or two. That's just not the case here. Both companies were very similar. They were very traditional, but at the same time forward-thinking and pushing it to the edge at all times.
They are a big company. I don't know that the average person knows about Chrisman and that they are a worldwide company. So it may take some education, but I don't know that anybody other than them could have done a renovation of this type. I think people are going to hear about them and understand what they are as people walk by the storefront and are able to peer into the offices and see how beautiful the building is. They're going to learn more about Chrisman. You know, I hope that they'll be able to see this was a good investment. We partnered with Preservation Greensboro. They went out and actually found Chrisman, and then we did an economic incentive, and I have to say it was worth every penny to get them here.
Historic preservation has become more viable in the cities, and I think it's for multiple reasons. I'd like to believe that all of us are becoming more conscious of our past and want to save that heritage. Within the historic part of Greensboro, there's very few buildings like this that are left, and to take this one out would really be, it's like missing a tooth in a face. And it connects one part of town to another. We also see that from a sustainability standpoint, we can't keep tearing buildings down and putting them in landfills. We just run out of materials at some point, and there's no reason to do so.
The trains are the best thing about the project. As a kid, we all played with trains. It's not a distraction. I love hearing the whistle and the bells dinging. That's what makes Greensboro, Greensboro, and that's what makes Elm Street, Elm Street, and we're just excited to be part of it.
The railroad assists us by giving us track protection. They route the trains to the center track, giving us a little bit more space between our scaffold and the rail, just so there's an added safety factor between our work and their work. We need to make sure that we have as much space as possible, because not every day that we're working on the scaffold do we get track protection. And when you're working on that scaffold and that Amtrak's going by, I'm telling you, you have a new outlook on looking straight up and thanking the Lord that we're safe and that we're able to do our work while they're able to transport their materials and people.
Today we try to seal buildings up to keep the environment out, water, wind, everything out of it. But in the 1700s and 1800s, the buildings were allowed to breathe and move. And they're standing here because of that. It's important as people to protect and keep our history going. If my memory serves me correct, I think it's still the oldest saloon standing in Greensboro. being next to the railroad track, there's a lot of history beside this building. So you're not just saving a building, you're saving a piece of our history that a lot of people take for granted. That's another good thing about my business. We're saving history.
In the turn of the century, Greensboro was a rapidly growing town. Earlier in the century, it had been a sort of a little college town with Greensboro College and a few other institutions. By the 1890s, new industry was appearing in town. So Greensboro was growing rapidly, and that was a result of the railroad tracks and transportation. There was a lot of transportation in Greensboro at the time. So many trains came in and out of Greensboro that it got the name the Gate City. Governor John Motley Moorhead contributed to the rail history of Greensboro through the establishment of the North Carolina Railroad. It's on the same track today that it was when it was made in 1856. The original train station was actually sort of across the street from the Cascade Saloon. There's sort of a recessed area where the original train station was. It was a small wooden building. It turned into the center and hub of transportation for Greensboro. Early in Greensboro's existence, in 1808, the town was established at the crossroads of what we know as Elm Street and Market Street. So right at that intersection was the center of town, and that's where the Guilford County Courthouse was. And for 50 years, that's where the town stayed. With the arrival of the railroad in 1856, it began to lure commercial development south along Elm Street to the train station. So the intersection of South Elm Street and the railroad tracks would have been a hub of activity. So you would have had numerous trains coming in from all different parts of the state. You would have seen horse-drawn carriages lined up along Elm Street. You would have had hotels in that area, so people would have been finding accommodation and checking in and out of their hotel. So this would have been a very busy hub of activity. S.J. Macaulay had a saloon that he cleverly wedged between two railroad tracks, and he wanted to build a larger brick building, but he didn't want to lose his alcohol license for his saloon. And so he very cleverly began to build a 3-story brick building around the old wooden saloon. So by 1896, he opened up his new saloon, which was a much grander building. It had 2 shop fronts with a partition wall, dividing wall in between the 2 of them. And it was quite an important building, an imposing building for downtown Greensboro as the city grew up around it.
Size, volume, cost-wise, this is a small project. The total cost is, under it's $4 million-ish. From a technical challenge, this is among the most technically challenging. And these are always difficult, and this one was just as difficult as any other. I don't think I've had one more difficult. In terms of excitement, this is probably the most exciting project I've done. I'm here for the first time in the completed building today. And it's really, really satisfying to see what this was able to be transformed into.
The company is growing so fast right now, and we're hiring such great talent. And this building is just so symbolic of a new start, a new day, success through a team, and we're just so excited about it.
The City of Greensboro was our partner for this. Preservation Greensboro was our partner for this. Other people should look to them as partners also and do their projects. There's the no one thought this could be done, but we did it sort of pride. But there's also the no one thought this could be done. So all those other things you think can't be done, maybe you're wrong about those too.
But from our standpoint as a contractor and a preservation contractor, we've seen these buildings become a great training ground for new trades, which is very important. We've seen them become a catalyst for redevelopment of other areas. Everybody wants to raise the ship, so to speak, and become a better part of the community. We've seen these projects help spur new construction in a neighborhood because of their investment. And I'm very confident that that's what this building will do with the neighborhood and the community behind here because of its unique situation around the railroad tracks as well as further down the street.
If you look at the support that the Cascade Saloon has gained over recent years, to the point that this amazing transfiguration is taking place and the reoccupancy of that building, that is really amazing. And it's a recognition about caring for this place, because this place is part of Greensboro, and that's the place that we inhabit, and we recognize now that we inhabit a place that has value to us, and we can celebrate it by supporting this building. That's really important. But it all goes back to this idea of a place. We recognize that there's only one Cascade Saloon, and it's part of our city. And if we really respect our city and we want to take care of our city, then we're going to take care of the Cascade Saloon.